For about 5 or 6 years after awakening, I had kind of chronic headaches or pressure in my head. It was not there all the time. It wasn't there every day, but I would say it was there probably most days of the week to some degree. Sometimes it was low level and didn't really distract me or wasn't that noticeable. Other times it was pretty intense, even kind of migraine type headache that would cause me to lay down in a dark room and just kind of wait it out or take some medicine and wait till it kind of resolved or largely resolved. But there was some kind of tension or pressure also associated with it. Even when there wasn't technically a headache, there was some sense of pressure or heaviness, dullness in the head. And I could also discern, not maybe at the beginning, but over time as I got used to this, I could discern there was this sense of like energy being pushed up into the head or some, I don't know if I would have called it energy at the time, but I could feel the upward movement somehow. And now it feels energetic for sure. It's very clear that there was just so much energy being directed into the mind, into mind identification and so forth, into thought, that when the mind identification spell broke, it's almost like that energy didn't have anywhere to go, but the body's tendency to push it up into the head was still there. And it took quite a while to really solve that. I guess I wasn't even trying to solve it. I didn't realize it was something to solve or fix at all. I didn't really struggle with it. I just noticed it a lot. So, but anyway, for it to resolve or largely resolve, it probably took 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. Now, I don't think it necessarily has to take that long. I think if I were to have had some somatic sort of modalities or treatments or some kind of energy work or maybe even a movement practice, which I really didn't do. I was busy. I was in medical training. I was in pre-medical and then medical training. I just was focused on other things. But had I been focused a little bit more on the energetics of it, I probably could have softened it or helped it to resolve sooner, but who knows. Anyway, not to talk about me so much, is the reason I'm making this video is I do get this question or comment reasonably frequently. I would say a handful of times a year someone will ask about pressure in the head, headaches, probably more frequently than that, maybe once a month or so. And it is an issue with a lot of people. Some people have a lot of kundalini and that energy gets sort of trapped in the head as well. It may feel like a lot of crown chakra energy. So it's experienced differently by different people, but I think it pretty much has the same etiology no matter who is experiencing it, especially after a shift in identity. So the etiology, as I said, is just so much energy is required to be in thought, to think all day, to process, to use that conceptual apparatus to keep an inner world constructed and ongoing. It just requires a lot of energy. And when we break that spell or start to break that spell, the tendency to move that energy upward is still there. But the constant requirement of thought to maintain a constant identity may not be fully there anymore. So there's a kind of energy imbalance, you could say, in that there's more energy in the head than there needs to be. Also, it pulls attention into that as well, pulls attention into the head, and less energy and attention is relegated to the body. So what happens over time is this just rebalances. More and more attention comes down into the body, into the sensation field, and less energy remains in the head. The energy can flow back down into the body. You learn, whether it's intuitively or literally, learn energy management. There are many practices that can help. Qigong, yoga, TRE, any kind of somatic practice can be helpful with this. Intuitive movement, intuitive dance, general exercise. It will become more and more obvious how that energy is moving through the body, what kind of states cause it to remain in certain parts of the body. You'll start to notice when certain energy centers open, we could say chakras, and you will for sure notice when that happens. If, for instance, your sacral chakra opens, it's not subtle. It's not like, I wonder if that's happening. It's really, really obvious. Heart chakra openings, same, right? So as that energy gets freed up from not having to be so stuck in the head and spun up in thought and concepts and time and daydreaming and all of it, then the energy is allowed to move through more freely the body's chakra system and so forth, and it tends to align with the conditions appearing that allow an opening in those lower chakras, which is a very profound and generally enjoyable experience. It can be surprising too, but it feels like integration. It starts to feel much more like intimacy. The intimacy thing actually brings me to another topic, but maybe I'll bring that up in another video. But yeah, so just know this whole thing is about rebalancing energy. Ultimately, awakening is an energetic movement. It's not necessarily it's certainly not a cognitive movement. It's not a conceptual movement. It's not a conceptual understanding. It is waking up from essentially a false reality into to this, right? Well, what is this? I could say it's true reality, but that can turn conceptual, right? I could say unfiltered reality, which is pretty much what it is. It's unfiltered, it's unconditioned. And waking up to that is what awakening is, and the deepening of the awakening process. And ultimately, it's energetic. Underneath all of that is energetics, and that becomes really clear with deeper insights, including formless non-duality. So that's what this is about. Rebalancing. So what to do about this, or what approaches can you take? I did learn maybe a little later on in that 5-year span or so, when I was having a lot of head pressure, headaches, and so forth. I did learn some techniques that can be helpful to help guide that energy downward, because ultimately, I mean, the energy is not volitional in this way, but ultimately it is trying to go downward. It's trying to get into the body, maybe even down into the earth and try to ground itself. But it's more and more will become obvious that it's an unnatural state to have that much energy in the head. So it tends to ultimately move downward. There are a lot of ways to approach that. There's an old Zen master had the, what do you call it? Golden butter, something like that. But you can imagine like a pat of butter on top of your head, or anything. It could be syrup, it could be golden light. And as it melts, or as it softens, or as it moves toward grounding, it'll move down through the head, or the back of the head, or the sides of the head, or whatever feels natural to you, through the spine. I mean, very slowly too. This isn't as quickly as I'm saying it, but you kind of imagine it visually, and then you kind of feel it. It's almost like a somatic imagination. And then it will actually start to follow that path. And then it just slowly goes down the spine, maybe over the shoulders on the outside, down the spine on the inside, kind of like a golden light, very slowly just moving through the body, moving through the lower spine, down through the pelvis, through the legs and feet, through the hands, down into the ground, into the earth. So you can kind of imagine, and that imagining, again, turns into more of a feeling imagining, a somatic imagining, and then the energy will tend to follow it. Now, if this is just my experience, if the tendency for energy to be in the head is strong, that may work for a period of time, a short period of time, but you may find that the habit force, or the momentum of turning that, reversing that and putting the energy back in the head will be there, especially when you're engaged in things that keep you busy, or keep you thinking, or keep you interacting with others, and so forth. So you may have to do that repeatedly as a practice, and it can be a valuable practice. It may surprise you if you've never tried that. Try it. For some people, it's going to be really potent and powerful. For others, it may not be as accessible. But that's one really good way to do it. Another way, and this is really for any kind of energy imbalances, but specifically this one with the head, is to just lay down, even if it's inside on the carpet, on the floor, on your bed, but ideally outside, laying on the grass maybe, or in the dirt, or in the snow, or whatever you have access to, maybe in a body of water. But lay back and just feel all of the contact points. Feel sensation, the contact points of where your body's touching, we'll say the earth. Feel those contact points, feel the coolness or warmth, feel the sensation qualities of those contact points, and really put your attention in the sort of contact, the sensation in between earth and body, and just notice that contact point. And you can, if this feels meaningful to you, relevant to you, doesn't seem too silly to you, you can ask the earth or invite the earth to help you rebalance that energy. Because we could say energy really, mass, is just energy that's in a sort of different phase or moving much more slowly, or it's more densely packed. And from a physics standpoint, it's essentially true that energy and mass are in continuum with one another. So the biggest mass of energy that we have in mass form anywhere near us is the Earth. So there's a lot of energetics there. So you can actually do that. You can invite the Earth or ask the Earth to kind of help you regulate that energy, or I would say just regulate the energy. Ultimately, it may feel like a movement of energy, from the body down into the Earth, a kind of grounding and or a rebalancing throughout the body. This can be really helpful. I've done it myself, and I've suggested other people do it, and they've gotten good results. Those are two things that you can do. As I mentioned before, somatic practices like yoga or qigong, specifically noticing where the energy is when you're doing these practices. Is it in the head? Is it in the body? Does it feel like an imbalance? And as you move the body and as you listen to the instructor, try to pick up the energetics of what they're pointing to, and that can help rebalance this throughout the body. Another one that you probably heard me talk about, if you haven't, it's a free thing to learn, and for pretty reasonable price, you can actually have someone facilitate and help you dial it in, would be TRE, tension releasing exercise, or trauma releasing exercise, which is a trembling exercise. This is another good way to rebalance energy, and it's a good way to, if you find that you can't access certain parts of the body, like if I were to say, can you feel inside the body, like chakra energy or just the inside spaces of the body, and you find, oh yeah, I can feel it in my head. It's behind my eyes. It's in my head. But it's harder to feel in the throat or the chest or the gut or pelvis. Then, or if you feel there's one part of your body that's just left out somehow, like there's actually no somehow sensation in that inner aspect of the body, TRE can be really helpful because it's a spontaneous, intuitive, natural, not completely non-conceptual or cognitive process that does ultimately help regulate energy. It helps release energy and also regulate energy. So consider that. Consider TRE. So far, these are all free ways of doing this, by the way. So no reason not to try if you have a little bit of time to do it. You can learn TRE online as well. And then, like I said, there are good facilitators out there that you can, once you've learned on your own, you can have them observe you over Zoom or in person and dial it in a little bit, specifically to open up channels where something may be stuck or missing or cold, like not being incorporated into the whole body energy. And that can be a big shift too. If you have something like that, it suddenly opens. The only caution I'll give with TRE is if you have a tendency towards a lot of Kundalini, a lot of very activated energy and intense energy, you want to start very slowly because that can be an activating modality. So those are some initial approaches that are more physical or directly engaging the energy. When it comes to meditation, natural meditation is probably the most balanced, which is also shikantaza. My book describes this, natural meditation, shikantaza and Zen, is probably the most balanced when it comes to rebalancing body energies because there's no finger on the scale, whether it's thought, sensation, sound, like the energetics as they appear are not being seemingly modified or modulated through control of attention, right? That's kind of how it works. So that's a very nice rebalancing. The only downside is, for me, it took years before I even understood what it was. I really didn't get what it was until it just clicked for me one day. And so that can be true for a lot of people. But if you really feel an inclination towards natural meditation, I think that's a really good way to rebalance energies, especially if you are able to try it maybe at different times of day and in different environments just to see if there's a different feel of the way the process plays out as that natural meditation sort of goes. He kind of does it on its own, right? That's how its experience is, just this natural unfolding of experience that is not directed at all. So you could try that, different times of the day. Try it early in the morning, try it midday, try it in the evening, try it outside even if you can, and see if that doesn't affect how the energies are regulated through that practice. So that's another thing you can try. And then, as I always recommend at all stages of realization, cultivating a practice in unbound consciousness is really, really helpful, because what that does is it quiets or calms or discharges the polarities of thought and consciousness, thought within consciousness. And those polarities are often what keeps almost a magnetic pull of attention up into the mind. Right. So as we settle those cognitive polarities more and more and more and essentially soften the mind and remind ourselves of the accessibility of unbound consciousness, which is a beautiful gift that we have, actually, that will calm the pull up into the head and up into the mind. So that's an adjunctive practice for this process. I do recommend that. I recommend that to everyone anyway. I have a playlist called Consciousness that can help you dial into that. So these are some things that can be helpful for this. I guess I could also give one kind of broad statement about it, and that is when you're sitting meditating, if you feel a lot of tension in the head, behind the face, any of that, and or pressure in the head, headache, whatever, one thing to do is just look and see, ask yourself, is there resistance here? Am I resisting this? Because that, in one sense, it's like low-hanging fruit. Because if you're feeling resistance, then just go to the resistance. Just feel the resistance. Just notice what resistance feels like. That's that first layer of resistance that's often reacting to a deeper layer of resistance. But noticing if there is resistance at all can be really helpful, because often these energy centers that are really contracted, blocked, stuck feeling, what they are is like little bundles of resistance, which if you look closely enough, you'll see it's resistance, resisting resistance, ultimately. So that's one other kind of overarching approach to this, is just to ask yourself, is there resistance being added here? Am I adding resistance to this? And that can be a really nice modifying query as you sit to meditate, for instance.